A lot of these degrees, the only thing you can do with that degree is turn around and teach it to other people getting that degree. And then you have to lie to the people getting that degree to make it seem like it's a worthwhile degree to get because you got it. And now you trying to pay off your student loans. And if nobody takes your class, you don't get paid. I'd rather keep it real with ya. Hey everybody, it's me, Mina, back in another video. I'm sorry, my schedule of uploading has been very inconsistent, and that's because I got a lot going on between the house and work and travel. Though I'm very privileged to be able to travel, it also just completely throws off everything because I'm used to just being at home all the time, and now I'm not at home all the time. And it's also eating into my finances, which is also stressful. I don't know what my hair is doing. It was an afro that I put into like some flat twists to the back. So, and I'm not like using my scarf to tie it down. So it's just kind of poofy. But yeah, we're just going to deal with that. Today I want to talk about something I was thinking about, and it kind of came up in the Discord. But 10 years ago, I was starting to go to college. I was starting my first semester in college. And now one of my youngest cousins, who is 10 years younger than me, has started their first semester of college. And it's brought up a whole host of things. Now, because I'm no contact with almost all my family, trying to initiate contact with like the younger people who are very like innocent in all of the nonsense is very weird. It's very awkward. So I'm kind of just positioning myself as like, hey, if you ever have questions, I'm here for you. You can talk to me whenever. I'm right here and in this little app on your phone where you can send me messages. So it is, but you know, they probably won't say anything. They probably feel some type of way, which I understand. But yeah, it's brought up a lot of questions and that have been coming up lately, not just for me, but for a lot of people, right? Because for a while, millennials have been saying that college is not worth it. And that it's a scam. You know, everybody has student loan debt. The election cycle in the United States is going on now. And just as always, the Democrats are promising to like forgive student loan debt. I'm getting emails saying the Republicans are stopping us from forgiving your student loans from my student loan servicers because I have government loans. It's really crazy. And honestly, from my perspective, everybody's a fucking liar. Don't nobody want to forgive them student loans because the only people who got student loans are poor people who could not afford to pay out of pocket for college. So don't give a fuck about us. So I do want to talk about that. I do want to talk about whether or not I, as someone with a college degree, you know, truly believes that college is a scam and that you should not go to college and like what the alternatives for that is. One of the first and most obvious things that makes college degrees feel like scams and not worth it. Actually, I saw this recently be brought up in an Adam Conover video, but it's the fact that college education used to be free. Like it used to be that a lot of people could go to college, well, people of a certain skin color, and then later, you know, people of color. But for a good amount of time, it was just white people. But a lot of people could go to college to get this higher level education that would allow them to gain access to higher level jobs and pay for free. You know, boomers be coming at us like, I'm sick of y'all complaining and pretending everything so that they went to college for free. Or they went to college for like a very, very low amount of money that they were able to pay off working a minimum wage job. But they did. And then what came out of a lot of that was that a lot of people were getting kind of enlightened. They were kind of getting woke and they were doing a lot of protesting. They were doing a lot of pushing back against the government. I think that's why boomers have such a higher voter turnout than the other generations is because of the fact that they had access to a college level education that allowed them to learn more and understand what the government does and allowed them to critique things better, and they had better critical thinking skills. I don't know where it's gone because they don't have it now anymore. But in the past, they certainly had it, and they understood that the the importance of voting and how they could influence things with their vote. Now they're using it for evil now, but they learned that through their like college educations. So the government, yes, Sadie, and Sadie is back. But the government saw that and they literally was like, nah, fuck that. Make college as expensive as possible because we cannot have these people protesting and like influencing politics, these young people. Like, no, this is awful. And particularly Adam Conover brought up how someone, I can't remember who it was that said it, but they said that the colleges were creating an educated proletariat. Yes, ma'am. All right, you've made your appearance. Now sit down. How many pets do you need, ma'am? They made it as expensive as possible, like removed any type of regulation and just let colleges charge out the ass for this education, while also simultaneously telling everybody, if you're gonna put your butt up, I'm gonna shove you under the table so you can't put it in my face. But okay, so coming back to what I was saying, I guess I'm just gonna have to do this while one hand petting my cat. But they made it as expensive as possible. They got rid of all the regulations and the price caps and basically treated education, higher education, like it was a luxury. Meanwhile, also Republicans over the past 40 years have also been attacking like the public primary education as well and working to defund that as much as possible so that so many schools, especially schools in poor Black areas, suffer and are not able to properly like educate people because the schools are either going to get shut down, they're not going to get adequate funding, they're going to be overcrowded. So you have a lot of people graduating with high school degrees, if they graduate at all. But if they graduate with high school diplomas, they are coming out very, very behind their white upper class counterparts who were able to, funnel money into the education system. Like even stuff like the fact that there are schools where teachers have to buy school supplies, or they're asking, like they have GoFundMe so that teachers can buy school supplies because their students can't afford school supplies and the school's not providing school supplies, even though it's a public education. So you still have situations where people, if they don't have the money, they can't get proper education. So for a lot of poor people, the only way for them to get a proper education that's going to actually reward them in some way is to take on student loan debt to go to college. And then let's also talk about the fact that not all colleges are created equal. I specifically chose to go to a college that was mostly white people for a reason, because going to colleges that were marketed, advertised, recruited for from these poor Black schools were often colleges where they may have been a little bit more on the affordable side, but also they did not have quality teachers. They had, a myriad of issues like the public state schools. And the quality of the education is not the same as you would get at these private institutions that cost a lot more because they're being funded by millionaires and billionaires. You know what I mean? And yes, I would have loved to have gone to an Ivy League college and have that behind my name, but I didn't. I didn't qualify. Whether I didn't have a sob story big enough or what, I didn't qualify. I got waitlisted for one of them, but I ultimately did not qualify. But the fact of the matter is the amount of student loan debt that people come out with, even after 10 years of making minimum payments, they don't actually ever pay off the loan. Like there's a lot of people who take all of this debt and they can't even get jobs to pay off the debt. Even if you were to get one of those jobs, maybe you spent 10 years in college becoming a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. Doctors will have like $300K or more student loan debt. Ouch, Sadie, damn. Just imagine that. That is a house. That is a house paid for in cash in a lot of places and a great ass down payment on a house in California. That is how much student loan debt that the doctors are sitting with. So a doctor coming out making $200K, $300K, that's great, but the debt that they went into is ridiculous. And not to mention the fact that it's a lot of doctors out here who don't even know what the fuck they doing. They're doing guesswork. They're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to do guesswork. And they don't even understand things like how the healthcare system works. They don't understand how insurance works. They barely understand how to do referrals to get people the help they need. And they be hella burnt out and stretched thin. You know, they still have to rely on other people to help them do their healthcare. They have to rely on nurses and clinical staff and like all of these different people. They have people like they have pathology people whose job it is to read and interpret blood work. So doctors are not like, they come out with this education that is super, super general. That means they have to do guesswork and rely on a bunch of other specialists to actually tell them what they should be doing to help their patients. So it's not even like they're coming out like super doctors with $350K student loan debt. They're coming out average. You know, it's people out here who they may have gone to an Ivy League school, but they're coming out with so much fucking debt just to be like, I went to an Ivy League school. It's ridiculous. I knew someone who went to a arts college, the arts college actually, in the time I knew them, shut down right as they were graduating. The college shut down because it just was underfunded apparently. Yet somehow this person had over $100K in student loan debt from an art degree. And that brings me to the other point too. There's a lot of degrees you can get in college that don't translate into a job. There's a lot of degrees you can get that don't translate into a well-paying job. That's one. But there's a lot of degrees you can get in college that don't translate into a job. A lot of people were talking about during the Olympics, the breaking, the B-girl ray gun, who was actually a professor who studied like, I don't know why they call it breaking, but she studied breakdancing. She studied breakdancing, got a degree in that, and then went on to become a professor of breakdancing. And she had to become a professor because what job do you get from studying a physical thing? Like you cannot get a PhD in the concept of construction when you've never constructed anything. Like these are things that have like real hands-on. You have to physically be doing it. And you sat in a room and read books on it and wrote a dissertation on, you know, the cultural impacts of breaking. A lot of these degrees, the only thing you can do with that degree is turn around and teach it to other people getting that degree. And then you have to lie to the people getting that degree to make it seem like it's a worthwhile degree to get because you got it. And now you trying to pay off your student loans. And if nobody takes your class, you don't get paid. So you have to lie to other young, impressionable people so they can make the exact same mistake that you made so that you can actually feed your family. That is ridiculous. You know, getting a degree in studying art is cool if you want to write books about art. But getting a degree where you actually create art would be a lot more impactful. But a lot of times when you are studying art, you don't actually get the freedom of expression because you're in an academic setting, and academics are not about freedom of expression. They're about learning the shit that other people have already done, as if the old people who did it is your Bible. So you don't actually get the freedom of expression to do that. I had a friend in college who they wanted to become like a clinical psychologist. Too bad for them. The college they went to didn't teach people how to become clinical psychologists. They taught people how to become research psychologists. What do you do with a research degree? You can't help but just write academic papers and then speak at TED Talks or become a professor if you want something that is more consistent. You don't get to like study research and then go sit in a clinical setting with real people. You'd have to still spend more time in school, in a different school, getting the actual experience you need to do that job. Because a lot of degrees do not translate to real world experience. You can get an education degree. That does not mean you can teach sixth grade math. It means you understand how education works. You understand the fundamentals of education, but it doesn't mean that you can actually teach kids as a teacher. What are you going to teach them? The concept of education? No, you have to get the real world experience of what it's like to actually be a teacher. I have a history degree, for example. Was I ever trying to become a history teacher? Fuck no. I hated all my history teachers up until college. In college, I loved them. But primary school, I hated all my history teachers because they would just teach to whatever was going to be on the test. And since slavery wasn't on the test, I got into many, many arguments with my teachers in high school and middle school because we didn't want to talk about slavery because it wasn't on the test. Bullshit like that, real world applications of bullshit like that you didn't learn that in school. And also too, none of my history teachers had a history degree. At most, I had like a teacher's assistant who was actually in college studying the stuff that they were teaching. But most of them just had a regular ass degree and they needed a history teacher. So now they're teaching history. Here's the textbook, read the textbook and answer the multiple choice questions on the test. If you're lucky, you get to write an essay. I mean, for me, essays are a good thing because it allows me to be a little bit more expressive than a multiple choice test. Yeah, there's a lot of people who, say you go to film school. You go to film school thinking you can be the next Wes Craven, the next Jordan Peele, the next Ari Aster. You're going to make movies and just be creative and all that. No, you go to film school and they teach you how to be basically a PA on set for a commercial. Or if you're lucky, you get really good at editing and you really like editing because that's a huge job that you can actually get. But you're going to be editing boring ass shit like commercials. You're going to work for advertising companies. Nobody is hiring people to become great filmmakers in Hollywood. Nobody's hiring someone who's never made a movie before to direct a multi-million-dollar film in Hollywood. Hollywood only wants the same people that they've been doing stuff with. And those people are the people who had the freedom and time and energy to put into making a movie with no budget. And somehow still shining through to where they can make movies with budget. There's very few things you can do with your college degree. And the jobs that people can actually get out of college without experience are things like accounting, maybe computer science, though that field has kind of been like flooded at this point. So you may be able to do it. You may be able to not do it. But something like accounting, you can go out and then get an accounting job because you're just working from computer to computer. So you've probably already done some work on that. So I'm not saying that every degree is like trash, but I'm saying that most of the time people are graduating with degrees and being told they can't get a job because they don't have experience, because entry-level roles want like 5 years of experience and a degree. Not you have a degree, If you are lucky, you are not the first person in your family to go to college, so you have an understanding of how to navigate college, and you get into some internships while you're in college. And as stressful as it may be, because someone like me, I couldn't do an internship. I couldn't even have a job during the semester because I was chronically ill, physically and mentally, and trying to handle a high caseload of classes. But if you were one of those people who you took a bunch of easy classes, you were able to take an unpaid internship while you were in college to be able to get experience so that you could actually get a job, that would be great. But you were one of the few people, and a lot of times people who are able to get access to internships or afford unpaid internships are people who already have money, because it's a money game. College is for rich people. It's enjoyable for rich people. I knew people whose parents were paying out of pocket the full $27,000, at this point now probably $30,000 a semester, for them to fuck around in their Ferraris on college and get wasted and make a bunch of mistakes and do drugs and then somehow step into a job that their dad's friend got them when they graduated. Didn't matter what the degree was as long as they graduated. They graduated in these fake ass things like leadership, because they already had a job waiting for them when they graduated college. So people who are the first person to go to college, meaning they have no blueprint to follow, they don't know what to do. They're coming from a poverty background, which means it's really, really important to them that they keep their grades up and that they actually do get a job out of college, because they are going into student loan debt because their parents can't help them. Those are the people who suffer the most, because if they don't know what degrees they should be getting, they will go through 4 years agonizing through different major after major after major, only to graduate and find that they have to move back in with their parents for several years because they cannot land a job, because all the jobs want experience. And no job, and this is very frustrating even for me as somebody who, not consistently, but recently has been consistently employed. No job wants to hire someone to teach them how to do the job. No job wants to hire someone to give them the experience they need to be great. They all want you to already have the experience. That's why when you are fresh out of college, like when I was fresh out of college, every job I applied to, I was just getting ghosted. I couldn't even get a Kroger job. I was like, well, I can't work at Kroger. I can't work in the back office, for anything, because I needed an office job because of the chronic illness. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. But once I started getting jobs and having like a resume actually of stuff on there that isn't just my degree also too got pushed further and further down on that page. Like, it was so irrelevant the more years went on. Because I had experience, all of a sudden everybody wanted me. All of a sudden I couldn't beat the recruiters away with a stick, because they were like, oh, you already have a job? Now we want to hire you. They don't want to hire people who don't have jobs. They don't want to hire people who have gaps. They don't want to hire people who who have an associate's degree versus a bachelor's degree. They don't want that. They want you to already have everything that they're looking for 100%, because they don't want to train people. And I've heard this from higher ups in different jobs I've had, because for them, the worst thing they can do is hire someone, train that person how to do the job, and then let that person leave and go work at another job. Then they feel like training was a waste of time. But also, too, there's the possibility if you hire them and train them to do the job that they will stay. The only reason people leave jobs is either they have a toxic boss or they're not getting paid enough to live. But higher up people don't think like that. They make so much money. They can't think about the human side of it. They think about the cost. And I think that that's the other piece. I know that it had been asked in the Discord, like why people don't, go back to college, or they don't go to college when they're older. The older you get, the harder it is to justify spending so much time of the day in school. Because everybody I know who was in their late 20s, early 30s, 40s, all of that, who went to college, whether it was their first time or their second time, they had to have a partner, not their parents, because their parents are old and don't got it. They had to have a partner who was financially supporting them through all of those years so that they could actually focus on it. Otherwise, you just financially cannot do it, because you could try to apply for financial aid and loans, but you're only going to get so much, because they're going to look at your partner's income and think, yeah, you could totally pay this out of pocket. I had a friend who literally had to pay the full tuition because her dad died. And because they had a life insurance policy that they got money from, the college was like, we'll take that. And of course, her mother was like, well, your father would have wanted you to go to college, right? But that's like messed up. That's a messed up way to go about it. It's such a money pit. For the value of the degree that you get, it is a money pit. I've known people who they just lie and say they got the degree because at this point they've been working for so long and they have years and years of experience under their belt that the job really is hiring them because they can do the job, not because they have a degree. So they would just put it on their resume that they have the degree. Most of the time, the jobs didn't even check if they had the degree or not. Like, they just put that they had the degree, and then all of a sudden the job's like, oh, you checked that box. You know what I mean? It's literally like the amount of money to go to a good college. Because I know people with college degrees that are dumb as a sack of rocks because they went to a college where they barely even showed up to class and somehow still got an A. Well, not an A. They made C's consistently, and then they graduated, and they was like, got the degree now. You know, like, it's not as valuable as it would be if it was like, I don't know, if it was $20,000 a year. Like, if you went to a community college or something and it was $20,000 a year, I think it could be worth it. But these schools they charging 50, 60, 70,000 a year. Don't let you get accepted to a Harvard or something, Ivy League, even more money. And it's just ridiculous. I think even the college I went to, last time I checked, which I checked a few years ago, tuition had went up to like 60,000 a year. So if you were paying, who has 60,000 a year to pay out of pocket? You know what I mean? They don't. But even if you get to financial aid very rarely covers your full tuition. Because I had to get grants. I had to get poor people grants. I had to walk into the financial aid office and be like, yo, I don't got it. And I need it so that I can go to school here. I had the lowest meal plan possible. I knew the rich kids, they got to eat 3 meals a day. They didn't even eat all their food. You know, sometimes I would just sit in there in the cafeteria for like lunch and dinner, you know, because I didn't have enough to go and come back and get another meal. Because it was just literally like as bare bones as possible. Because I could not fully afford it. Financial aid didn't pay for it all. So I literally had to live off grants and scholarships, writing thank you notes to anonymous rich people who gave me $200 scholarship. Like, that was really helping something. And it was just really, really difficult financially. And just thinking about it right now just stresses me the fuck out. But I didn't have the privilege to walk out of that and not get a job. And it was stressful. It was a stressful several months after I graduated trying to find a job because nobody gave a fuck that I had a degree. Somehow all the jobs were like, you have to have a degree, but also we don't give a fuck that you got the degree because you have to have a degree and experience. And I only had the degree and a bunch of debt. So that's about 30 minutes of me talking about why college is shitty, why it's a money pit, why people say it's a scam, why it should be free. And it's not, because if it was free, more people would go and get educated, and then they would fight back against the government because more people would understand what the government's doing, and the government don't want us to know what they're doing. Therefore, college is expensive as shit. So